Captain Lee Hyun stared at the display screen in disbelief. The numbers could not be right. His coffee cup sat forgotten on the control panel as he leaned forward in his command chair. The orbital defense station Sol Prime had the best sensors. In the solar system, they did not make mistakes like this. "Run the scan again," he ordered his sensor officer, Lieutenant Park. So checked her instruments twice before speaking. "Sir, the readings are the same. It's definitely the ESV Daegu Dawn. Ship identification codes match perfectly." Lee Hyun felt his stomach drop. The Daegu Dawn had vanished 15 years ago. He had been a young officer then, fresh out of the Academy. Everyone knew the story. Earth's most advanced exploration ship had disappeared while studying strange signals near the Vega system. 847 people had been aboard. No wreckage was ever found, no distress signals. Nothing. Now the ship was back. "Where exactly is it?" Lee Hyun asked. "Edge of the solar system, sir. About 12 billion kilometers out. It's moving toward Earth at steady speed." Dr. Park Mina looked up from her research station. As the station's expert on alien technology, she spent most of her time studying old artifacts and ancient mysteries. This was the first time in years that something truly unexpected had happened. "Captain, I need to see those readings," she said. Lee Hyun nodded. "Send everything to Dr. Park's station." The doctor studied the data for several minutes. Her face grew more concerned with each passing moment. "This is impossible," she whispered. "What do you mean?" Lee Hyun asked. "The energy signatures are all wrong. Look at this." She pointed to her screen. "The ship is generating power readings that are 10 times higher than when it left Earth, but it's not using any fuel source we know about." "Park," So spoke up from her station. "Should I try to contact the ship?" "Yes. Try all frequencies." Lee Hyun ordered. For the next hour, they sent messages on every possible channel. Military frequencies, civilian bands, emergency signals. Nothing came back except static. The Daegu Dawn continued its slow journey toward Earth, completely silent. Lee Hyun called his superior officer. Admiral Kim Tae listened to the report without interruption. When Lee Hyun finished, there was a long silence. "You're absolutely certain it's the Daegu Dawn?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, sir. All identification codes match. The ship's design is exactly right. Even the small damage mark on the port side from a meteor strike in 2371 is still there." "But no response to communications?" "Nothing, sir." Admiral Kim Tae made his decision quickly. "I'm sending Commander Kim Jae with an intercept team. They'll dock with the ship and find out what happened. You're to provide full support." 3 days later, Commander Kim Jae arrived at Sol Prime with a team of specialists. He was a careful man who had handled many dangerous situations. His team included engineers, doctors, and security personnel. They all knew this mission was unlike anything they had done before. The team took a fast military shuttle to intercept the Daegu Dawn. As they got closer, they could see the ship clearly on their screens. It looked exactly as it should, except for one thing. The hull seemed to shimmer slightly, as if heat waves were rising from it. But space was cold. There should be no heat waves. "That's strange," said Chief Engineer Nam Ki. "The hull temperature. Readings are normal, but there's some kind of visual distortion." Kim Jae frowned. "Could it be a sensor malfunction?" "I don't think so. All our instruments are working fine." When they reached the Daegu Dawn, they found the docking bay doors were already open, as if the ship was expecting them. The airlock systems responded to their access codes perfectly. Everything seemed normal until they stepped inside. The corridors looked the same as they should, but something was different. Strange geometric patterns had been carved into the walls. The patterns seemed to move when no one was looking directly at them. When team members tried to focus on the designs, they appeared to be simple decorative elements. But in their peripheral vision, the patterns seemed to shift and flow. "Did you see that?" asked Dr. Lim Bo, the team's medical officer. "See what?" Kim Jae replied. "I thought I saw the wall pattern move." Everyone stopped and stared at the walls. The patterns remained perfectly still. "Probably just stress," Kim Jae said, but he made a note to keep watching. They moved deeper into the ship. The artificial gravity was working. The air was breathable. All the ship's systems seemed to be functioning normally, but the corridors were empty. No crew members anywhere. "Where is everyone?" whispered Engineer Cho Dae. They found their answer in the central hub. 44 people floated inside strange crystalline pods that grew from the walls like coral formations. The pods pulsed with soft blue light. Inside each pod, a person floated in what looked like suspended animation. "These pods aren't human technology," Dr. Lim Bo said immediately. "Look at how they're attached to the ship. They're not mechanical. They're organic." Kim Jae approached the largest pod. Inside was a woman in a captain's uniform. Her name tag, Red Yoon Hai. She had been the captain of the Daegu Dawn when it disappeared. "Can we wake them up?" Kim Jae asked. Dr. Lim Bo studied the pods carefully. "I think so. But I'm not sure it's safe. We don't know what these things are or how they work. We need answers," Kim Jae decided. "Try to wake up the captain." The doctor found what appeared to be a control panel growing from the wall next to Captain Yoon Hae's pod. When he touched it, the panel responded immediately. The blue light grew brighter and the pod began to open. Captain Yoon Hae's eyes opened slowly. She looked around in confusion for a moment, then focused on Kim Jae's face. Her first words made everyone in the room feel cold. "We found them," she said in a whisper. "The builders. And they found us worthy." Kim Jae helped her sit up. "Captain Yoon, I'm Commander Kim Jae from Seoul Prime. You've been missing for 15 years. What happened to your ship?" Captain Yoon Hae looked at him with eyes that seemed different somehow, older, wiser, as if she had seen things that changed her forever. 15 years? She asked. It felt like only months. We went to investigate the signals near Vega. We found something incredible, an ancient space station, millions of years old. The beings who built it were gone, but their machines were still working. She paused and looked around at her sleeping crew. The machines tested us. Most species failed the test, 97% of them. But humans, we passed. The price of passing was that our minds had to be changed, expanded. We can understand things now that we never could before. Dr. Lim Bo stepped forward. What kind of things? Captain Yoon Hai smiled, but it was not entirely a human smile anymore. Technologies that shouldn't exist. Mathematics that work in 11 dimensions. Ways to manipulate reality itself. But the knowledge comes with a cost. Only minds like ours can use it safely. Normal humans who try, it destroys them. Kim Jae felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at the strange patterns on the walls, at the organic pods, at the captain's changed eyes. What does this mean for Earth? He asked. It means everything is about to change, Captain Yoon Hai replied. And we're just getting started. Captain Yoon Hae stood on shaky legs as the crystalline pod finished dissolving back into the wall. Dr. Lim Bo wanted to help her, but she waved him away. Her movements were different now, more precise, as if she was calculating each step. "How? Many of my crew are still alive?" she asked. Commander Kim Jae checked his scanner. 43 others, including you. That means over 800 people are still missing. Yoon Hae closed her eyes for a moment. They didn't make it through the testing. The builder's machines are not cruel, but they are thorough. Those who could not adapt, they were given peaceful endings. The words hit the rescue team like a physical blow. Over 800 people dead. Kim Jae had to force himself to stay, focused on the mission. "We need to wake up the others," he said. "Yes," Yoon Hae agreed. "But be prepared. We are not the same people who left Earth 15 years ago." One by one, the pods opened. Each person who emerged looked confused at first, then gradually remembered where they were. Like their captain, they all had the same look in their eyes. Something fundamental had changed about them. The last person to wake up was Engineer Cho Dae. He had been young when the ship disappeared, barely 25 years old. Now he looked exactly the same age, but his eyes held knowledge that seemed ancient. "The testing preserved our bodies," he explained to Dr. Lim Bo. "We haven't aged at all, but our minds have been open to possibilities we never imagined." Chief Engineer Nam Ki was fascinated by the technology. "How do these pods work?" he asked. Chodae touched the wall where his pod had been attached. "They're not really pods. They're living interfaces. The builders created them to help. Biological beings survive the consciousness expansion process. Without them, our brains would have burned out in seconds." "Who were these builders?" Dr. Lim Bo asked. Navigation Officer Bae Wan answered. She had been the ship's best pilot, known for her steady nerves and quick thinking. Now she spoke with a calm certainty that was unsettling. They were an ancient race that existed millions of years ago. They spread across the entire galaxy, maybe beyond. They learned to manipulate reality at its most basic level. But they grew beyond physical existence. They became something else. "What happened to them?" Kim Jae asked. "They transcended, Captain," Yoon Hae said simply. "They moved beyond the need for physical bodies, for matter, for the normal laws of physics. But before they left, they built testing stations throughout the galaxy." "Why?" Kim Jae pressed. Dr. Song Ji, who had been the ship's physicist, stepped forward. "To find species that could continue their work. Most races failed the tests. They either lack the mental flexibility or they're destroyed by knowledge they can't handle. But occasionally a species passes." "And humans passed?" Dr. Lim Bo asked. "Not all humans," Song Ji corrected. "Only some of us. The testing process selects for specific mental patterns. Creativity, adaptability, the ability to think beyond normal limitations. About 1 in 20 humans has the right kind of mind." Engineer. Chodae moved to what had been a normal storage compartment. When he touched the wall, it transformed into a complex control panel that definitely wasn't human technology. "Let me show you what we learned," he said. He placed his hands on the panel and closed his eyes. The metal wall began to change. The atoms rearranged themselves, flowing like liquid, reshaping into something entirely different. Within minutes, the wall had become a complex lattice structure that hummed with energy. "This generates its own gravitational field," Chodae explained casually. "It doesn't need external power. It draws energy from the quantum fluctuations in empty space." Nam. Kai's mouth fell open. That's impossible. You can't just change matter like that. Impossible for normal humans, Chode agreed. But we're not normal anymore. The testing changed our brains. We can perceive and manipulate reality in ways that would have driven us insane before. Navigator Bay Wan led them to what had been the ship's navigation room. It was completely transformed. Instead of screens and keyboards, there was a sphere of light floating in the center of the room. Inside the sphere, three-dimensional star maps moved and shifted. "This is how we navigate now," she said. "I don't need to look up coordinates or calculate routes. I think about where I want to go, and the system shows me the way." She demonstrated by thinking about Earth. The star map zoomed in, showing their current location and the path home, but it also showed something else. Shortcuts through folded space that could reduce travel time from years to days. The builders understood that space and time are more flexible than most species realize, Bay Wan explained. With the right technology, you can step from one star system to another like walking through doorways. Chief Medical Officer Park Ray joined the group. She looked tired but excited. "The most amazing thing is how the knowledge was transferred to us. It wasn't like learning in school. The information was somehow written directly into our brains. I understand medical techniques that haven't been discovered yet. Can you teach this knowledge to others?" Dr. Limbo asked hopefully. Park Ray shook her head sadly. "That's the problem. Normal human brains can't handle it. If we tried to teach you directly, your minds would collapse. The knowledge has to be given gradually, carefully, with the right technology to support the process." Commander Kim Jae was starting to understand the implications. "So only people who have been through this testing can use builder technology?" "That's right," Captain Yoon Ha confirmed. "And there's something else you need to know. Our return to Earth has activated other builder installations across the galaxy. We've sent a signal that humanity has passed the tests. Is that good or bad?" Kim Jae asked. The survivors exchanged glances. Finally, Dr. Song Ji answered. "Both. Species that have passed the builder tests are respected throughout the galaxy, but species that failed the tests often become hostile toward those who succeeded. They see our success as proof of their own failure." "You mean we might be attacked?" Dr. Limbo asked. "It's not might," Captain Yoon Ha said grimly. "It's certain. Even now, the Corvani Empire is probably preparing their fleets. They failed. The builder tests 3,000 years ago. The failure drove them mad with jealousy and rage. They've spent centuries hunting down any species that succeeded where they failed." Engineer Chode added. "The good news is that we now have access to technology that can defend Earth. The bad news is that we'll need more people like us to use it effectively." "How many more?" Kim Jae asked. "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, and the process to create them has a 70% survival rate at best." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Earth was about to face an alien threat, unlike anything in human history. The only defense was a technology that required people to undergo a procedure that might kill them. Captain Yoon Ha looked at each member of the rescue team. "You need to get us back to Earth immediately. We have maybe 6 months before the first Corvani ships arrive. That's not much time to prepare for a war that will determine whether humanity survives or becomes extinct." Commander Kim Jae activated his communication system. "Sol Prime, this is the rescue team. We're coming home, and we're bringing passengers who have a very important story to tell." As they prepared to leave the Daegu Dawn, Dr. Limbo couldn't Help, but ask one more question. Was it worth it? All the people you lost? The changes you went through? Captain Yoon Hai looked at him with those strange, wise eyes. Ask me again when the war is over, she said. The meeting room at Earth Defense Command had never seen anything like this. President Han Nari sat at the head of the table, flanked by the planet's top military leaders and scientists. Across from them sat the 44 survivors of the Daegu Dawn, looking perfectly normal except for their eyes. Dr. Song Ji stood at the front of the room. She had been explaining builder technology for 3 hours, but the demonstration she was about to give would change everything. The first gift the builders left us is matter reconstruction, she said calmly. Watch carefully. She walked to the room's metal wall and placed her palm against it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wall began to change. The solid metal flowed like water, reshaping itself into a complex geometric pattern. Within minutes, what had been a simple barrier became an intricate lattice that pulsed with soft energy. General Park. Dude jumped to his feet. How is that possible? The metal is now generating its own gravitational field, Song Ji explained. It doesn't need any external power source. It draws energy directly from the quantum fluctuations that exist everywhere in space. Dr. Kim Won, Earth's leading physicist, stared at the transformed wall in disbelief. You just violated every law of physics I know. No, Song Ji corrected. I just used laws of physics that your science hasn't discovered yet. Matter and energy are much more flexible than most people understand. With the right knowledge, you can convince atoms to rearrange themselves into any configuration you desire. She touched the wall again, and it returned to its original form, as if nothing had happened. The process is controlled entirely by thought, she continued, but only minds that have been enhanced by builder technology can safely direct it. If a normal human tried this, the mental feedback would destroy their brain instantly. Navigator Bei Wan stepped forward. Let me show you the second gift. She led the group to an empty conference room. The walls were bare, except for standard displays and communication equipment. Bei Wan stood in the center of the room and closed her eyes. The air above her head began to shimmer. Slowly, a three-dimensional image formed. It was a perfect representation of the local star systems, complete with planets, asteroid belts, and space stations. Every detail was accurate down to the smallest moon. This is our current location, Bei Wan said, pointing to Earth without opening her eyes. And this is the path the Corvani fleets are taking toward us. The star map zoomed out, showing dozens of red dots moving through space toward the solar system. The closest ones were still months away, but they were definitely coming. How do you know this? Admiral Kim Tae asked. The builder network connects all their installations across the galaxy. Once we were enhanced, we gained access to the network. We can see any star system, track any ship, predict stellar movement centuries in advance. She opened her eyes and the star map remained floating in the air. But more importantly, we can find shortcuts through folded space. Distances that would take years to travel can be covered in days or hours. Admiral Kim Tae leaned forward intently. Could we use these shortcuts to attack the Corvani before they reach Earth? Possibly, Bei Wan replied. But first you need to see the third gift. It's the most important one. Chief Engineer Nam Su had been quiet throughout the meeting. Now he stood and gestured for everyone to follow him. They walked to what had been a storage room, but it was now filled with equipment that definitely wasn't human-made. In the center, Of the room sat a device the size of a basketball. It looked like a crystal sphere, but it pulsed with internal light that seemed to bend the air around it. "This is a reality anchor," Namsu said. "It's the most advanced piece of builder technology we brought back." President Han Nari studied the device carefully. "What does it do?" "It allows the user to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics within a localized area," Namsu explained. "Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. They all become adjustable parameters." Dr. Kim Wan's face went pale. "That's not possible. The fundamental forces are constants. They can't be changed." "They can if you know how," Namsu said. He approached the device and placed his hands near it, not quite touching. "Watch!" The room's gravity suddenly reversed. Everyone except Namsu found themselves pressed against the ceiling. After a few seconds, gravity returned to normal and they fell back to the floor. "Within the device's field of influence, I can make gravity push instead of pull. I can make light move slower or faster. I can even make time flow at different rates, in different areas." General Park Do picked himself up off the floor. "Could this be used as a weapon?" "It could be used as the ultimate weapon," Namsu admitted. "But that's not its primary purpose. The builders designed it as a tool for exploration and creation. You could use it to build things that are impossible under normal physics, or to explore regions of space where the normal laws don't apply." "But there's a catch," Captain Yoon Hai interjected. "Just like with the other technologies, only enhanced minds can operate it safely. If a normal human tried to use the reality anchor, the feedback would be catastrophic." Dr. Lim Bo, who had been taking notes throughout the meeting, looked up from his tablet. "So all of these technologies require the consciousness enhancement process?" "All of them," Captain Yoon Hai confirmed. "And that process has a 30% fatality rate at best. We lost over 800 people during our testing. The builders' machines are not cruel, but they are thorough. Minds that cannot adapt to the enhancement are destroyed to prevent dangerous instabilities." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Earth was facing an alien invasion that could only be stopped with technology that required people to risk their lives just to use it. President Han Nari spoke first. "How many enhanced people would we need to defend Earth effectively, Engineer?" Chode answered. "At minimum, several thousand. More would be better. The builder technologies are incredibly powerful, but they require skilled operators. One enhanced person can control defensive systems that would normally need hundreds of technicians." "And how long does the enhancement process take?" the president asked. 72 hours per person," Dr. Park Ray replied. "But the survival rate improves if we do it in small groups rather than trying to enhance large numbers at once." Admiral Kim Tae was doing calculations in his head. "Even if we started immediately, we could only enhance a few hundred people before the Corvani arrive." "That might be enough," Captain Yoon Hai said, "but only if we choose the right candidates. The process works best on people who already think in unconventional ways. Scientists, engineers, artists, philosophers, people whose minds are already flexible." President Han Nari stood up. "I need to address the world about this. People deserve to know what we're facing and what sacrifices might be required." "There's one more thing you should know," Dr. Song-ji said quietly. "The enhancement process isn't just about gaining access to builder technology. It changes you fundamentally. You stop thinking like a normal human. You see reality differently. Some people consider it a form of death and rebirth." "Are you still human?" Dr. Kim Wan asked. The survivors exchanged glances. Finally, Captain Yoon Hai answered. "We're what humanity becomes when it refuses to accept limitations. Whether that's still human depends on how you define the word. She looked around the room, at all the worried faces. But I can tell you this. We're still fighting for Earth. We're still trying to protect our species. And we're willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that humanity survives to see what comes next. President Han Nari nodded slowly. Then we better start preparing for the hardest decision in human history. Dr. Lim Bo had not slept in 3 days. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, he was trying to understand everything the Daegu Dawn survivors had told them. The problem was that every piece of information led to more questions. He was in his laboratory, at the Global Research Institute, when the first alarm sounded. His assistant, Dr. Oh Sung, ran into the room with a tablet full of urgent messages. "Dr. Lim, you need to see this immediately," Oh Sung said, breathing hard. "Deep space monitoring. Stations are detecting massive energy signatures from across the galaxy." Lim Bo looked at the data streaming across the tablet screen. "What am I looking at?" "Builder installations. Dozens of them. They've been dormant for millions of years, but they're all activating at the same time." The implications hit Lim Bo immediately. The return of the Daegu Dawn was a signal. That's what Captain Yun Hai thinks. She says the Builder Network is announcing to the galaxy that Earth has passed the tests. Lim Bo felt his stomach drop. And every species that failed those tests now knows where we are. The communication came 3 hours later. Earth's deep space arrays picked up a transmission on frequencies that human technology had never used before. The message was complex, but the Builder-enhanced survivors were able to translate it immediately. Captain Yun Hai stood in the Global Defense Command Center, listening to the alien transmission with an expression of growing concern. Around her, Earth's military leaders waited for her translation. "It's from the Corvani Empire," she said finally. "They're demanding that we surrender all Builder technology immediately." "What happens if we refuse?" asked Fleet Admiral Choi Ray. "Yoon." Hay continued listening to the message. "They say they will cleanse the galaxy of our contamination. They call us the new thieves and claim that Builder technology belongs only to those who have suffered for it." "How long do we have?" "President," Hanari asked. Navigator Baywan had been tracking the incoming fleet since the morning. "The first Corvani ships will reach the outer solar system in 4 months. But they're not alone. The network shows at least 6 other species joining them." Dr. Song Ji stepped forward. "I've been studying the historical records in the Builder network. The Corvani attempted their tests 3,000 years ago. They had one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy at that time." "What went wrong?" Admiral Choi Ray asked. "They were too rigid, too focused on control and order. The Builder tests require mental flexibility, the ability to accept that reality is not fixed. The Corvani couldn't adapt. The testing process drove most of their population insane." Engineer Cho Day added, "The survivors rebuilt their civilization around the trauma of their failure. They convinced themselves that Builder technology is evil, that it corrupts any species that uses it. They see themselves as guardians, protecting the galaxy from dangerous knowledge. So they're not just invading us," President Han Nari realized. "They think they're saving the galaxy." "Exactly," Captain Yun Hai confirmed, "which makes them much more dangerous. They won't negotiate. They won't accept surrender unless we completely abandon Builder technology, and they won't stop until every enhanced human is dead." Fleet Admiral Choi Ray activated the strategic display. "Show me what we're facing." The holographic projection filled the room with a 3-dimensional map of space around Earth. Red dots marked the approaching enemy fleets. There were far more than anyone had expected. 2,000 ships in the first wave, Bei Wan reported. Another 3,000 in the second wave, arriving 6 weeks later. The Corvani have been preparing for this kind of war for centuries. What about their technology? Admiral Choi Ray asked. Dr. Song Ji had been analyzing the enemy ships through the Builder Network. They're using advanced technology, but nothing close to Builder level. They developed their own path after failing the tests. Powerful weapons, heavy armor, but they still think in 3 dimensions. Is that an advantage for us? General Park Dao asked. It could be, Engineer Namsu said. Builder technology doesn't follow normal physics. We can attack from directions that don't exist in normal space. We can create defensive barriers that exist partially outside reality. But we need more enhanced people to use that technology effectively, Captain Yoon Hai reminded them. Right now, we have 44 enhanced humans. That's not enough to defend an entire solar system. President Han Nari had been quiet during most of the briefing. Now she spoke with determination. Then we need to start the enhancement process immediately. How many people can we process at once? Dr. Park Ray, the chief medical officer from the Daegu Dawn, answered carefully. The Builder medical systems can handle about 50 people per cycle, but the survival rate drops if we try to do too many at once. What's the current survival rate? The president asked. 78% for people under 40 with high cognitive flexibility scores, lower for older candidates or those with rigid thinking patterns. The president nodded grimly. We need volunteers. People who understand that they might die but that their sacrifice could save Earth. I'll volunteer, Dr. Limbo said immediately. Everyone turned to look at him. He had been quiet throughout the meeting, but now he stepped forward with determination. I've spent my career studying alien life. This is the most important discovery in human history. If I can help protect it, I'm willing to take the risk. Dr. Oh Sung nodded. I'll volunteer too. Within minutes, half the people in the room had volunteered. President Hanari felt a mix of pride and terror. These people were willing to die for the chance to save their species. I'll need to address the world, she said. People need to understand what we're facing and what we're asking of them. Captain Yoon Hai touched the president's arm gently. When you make that announcement, you need to be very clear about something. The enhancement process doesn't just give people access to Builder technology. It changes them fundamentally. They won't think like normal humans anymore. Some families might see it as losing their loved ones forever. But they'll still be fighting for humanity? The president asked. Yes, but they'll be fighting as something more than human. Something that can protect humanity from threats that normal humans could never handle. President Han Nari looked around the room at all the determined faces. Scientists, military officers, government officials, all willing to risk everything for a chance to defend their world. How soon can we start the first enhancement cycle? She asked. Dr. Park Ray checked her notes. The Builder medical systems are already being prepared. We could start tomorrow if we have volunteers ready. Then we start tomorrow, the president decided. And we pray that enough people survive the process to give us a fighting chance. As the meeting broke up, Dr. Lim Bo approached Captain Yoon Hai. What's it really like? Being enhanced? She looked at him with those strange, wise eyes. Imagine spending your whole life looking at the world through a small window. Then suddenly, someone removes the walls of the room and you can see in all directions at once. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Do you regret it? He asked. Captain Yoon Hai considered the question carefully. I regret the people we lost. I regret that we had no choice, but I don't regret what we became. Someone has to be able to see the bigger picture. Someone has to be willing to become more than human in order to protect humanity. She looked out the window at Earth's blue sky. The Corvani are coming because they're afraid. They're afraid that we succeeded where they failed. They're afraid that builder technology will change us into something they can't control or understand. Will it? Dr. Limbo asked. It already has, Captain Yunhai replied. The question is whether we can change fast enough to survive what's coming. 3 months before the Corvani invasion, Earth had become a world transformed. Enhancement facilities operated around the clock in every major city. The survival rate had improved to 82% as doctors learned to better identify suitable candidates. Dr. Limbo stood in the command center of Luna Station, looking down at Earth through the transparent aluminum windows. The planet looked peaceful from this distance, but he could see the construction sites where new defensive installations were being built using builder technology. "How many enhanced humans do we have now?" asked Commander Seo Yun, the leader, of the first squadron of enhanced pilots. "Just over 3,000, Dr. Limbo replied. "Not as many as we hoped, but enough to make a difference." Seo Yun had been one of the most successful pilot candidates. Her mind had adapted to the enhancement process with remarkable ease, and she could interface with builder technology in ways that amazed even the Daegu Dawn survivors. "Show me the new ships," Dr. Limbo requested. They walked to the observation deck where humanity's new fleet was being assembled. The vessels looked nothing like traditional spacecraft. Instead of metal hulls and rocket engines, they appeared to be made of crystalline structures that shifted and flowed like living things. "They're not really ships in the normal sense," Seo Yun explained. "They're extensions of our consciousness. When I pilot one, I don't sit in a cockpit and push buttons. I become the ship. I think about where I want to go, and space folds around me to take me there." Dr. Limbo watched as one of the ships performed a test maneuver. It simply vanished from one location and appeared in another, moving faster than light without any visible means of propulsion. "How is that possible?" he asked. "The ships exist partially outside normal space-time," Seo Yun said. "They can step between dimensions, manipulate local gravity fields, even reverse cause and effect in small areas. But only enhanced minds can control them safely." A new voice joined the conversation. Dr. An-Mi had arrived from Earth with the latest intelligence reports. She had volunteered for enhancement 2 months ago and survived the process with flying colors. "We've discovered something incredible," she announced excitedly. "Enhanced humans can link their consciousness together temporarily. When we work as a team, our capabilities increase exponentially." She demonstrated by joining hands with Dr. Limbo and Seo Yun. Immediately, all 3 minds connected in a way that was impossible to describe to someone who hadn't experienced it. They could share thoughts, memories, and insights instantly. "Watch this," An-Mi said through their mental link. Together, the 3 enhanced humans focused on a piece of scrap metal floating outside the station. Under their combined will, the metal transformed into a complex device that generated its own power and could manipulate local space-time. "We built that in 30 seconds, An-Mi said as they broke the mental connection. "Working alone, it would have taken hours." Dr. Limbo was amazed. "How many people can link together like this?" "We're not sure yet. The record so far is 12. People working together. They managed to create a defensive field that exists in 7 dimensions simultaneously." Commander Seo Yun looked thoughtful. "If we could link all 3,000 enhanced humans during the battle, the power requirements would be enormous," Dr. Limbo warned, "and the mental strain could be dangerous. But it might be our only chance against thousands of enemy ships, On-Mi pointed out. They were interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth. Captain Yoon Hai appeared on the main screen, her expression grave. "We have a problem," she announced. "Long-range sensors are detecting the Corvani advance fleet. They're moving faster than expected. Time until they reach the outer solar system, 6 weeks." The news hit the enhanced humans like a physical blow. They had been hoping for at least 2 more months to prepare. "How many ships?" Seo Yun asked. 500 in the advance fleet. The main force is still 6 months away, but 500. Ships could devastate our orbital installations before we're ready. Dr. Lim Bo activated the tactical display. The holographic projection showed the approaching enemy fleet as red dots moving steadily toward Earth. At their current speed, they would arrive just as humanity's defenses were reaching operational status. "What are our options?" he asked. "Captain." Yoon Hai consulted with her team before answering. "We could try to intercept them in deep space. Use our dimensional manipulation technology to attack before they reach Earth." "How many ships do we have ready for combat?" Commander Seo Yoon asked. 47, Captain Yoon Hai replied, "against 500 enemy vessels." The odds were terrible, but Dr. On-Mi had an idea. "What if we don't fight them ship to ship? What if we use the consciousness linking technique to create something they can't handle?" "What do you mean?" Dr. Lim Bo asked. 12 linked minds created a 7-dimensional defensive field. What could 50 linked minds create? What about 100? Captain Yoon Hai looked intrigued. "You're talking about linking enhanced humans across multiple ships during combat. That's never been attempted." "Everything we're doing has never been attempted," Seo Yun pointed out. "The Corvani expect us to fight using conventional tactics. They've spent centuries preparing for normal space warfare." Dr. Lim Bo was already running calculations in his enhanced mind. "If we could link enough enhanced humans, we might be able to create localized reality fields, spaces where our physics work differently than theirs. Could we make their weapons stop working?" On-Mi asked excitedly. "Better than that," Dr. Lim Bo realized. "We could make their ships exist in different dimensional frameworks. They would be unable to interact with normal space at all." Captain Yoon Hai was quiet for a long moment, considering the possibilities. "It's incredibly dangerous. Linking that many minds during combat could cause permanent psychological damage. Some people might not survive the mental strain." "But it could work?" Seo Yun pressed. "It could work," Captain Yoon Hai admitted. "But we would need volunteers who understand that they might not come back as the same people they were before." Within hours of the announcement, every single enhanced human on Earth, Luna, and Mars had volunteered for the experimental combat linking procedure. Not one person declined to participate. Dr. Oh Sung, who had become one of the leading researchers in consciousness enhancement, explained the volunteer response to a gathering of world leaders. "Enhanced humans see reality differently than normal people," he said. "We understand that individual identity is less important than collective survival. We're willing to risk our separate selves to protect the larger human community." President Hanari looked troubled. "Are you still human if you're willing to sacrifice your individual identity?" "We're human in the ways that matter," Oh Sung replied. "We love our families. We want to protect our civilization. We fear death and hope for the future. But we also understand that sometimes individual concerns must be set aside for the greater good." The preparations began immediately. Enhanced humans from around the solar system gathered at the fleet assembly points. They would have one chance to stop the Corvani advance fleet before it reached Earth's orbital defenses. Commander Seo Yun stood before her squadron of enhanced pilots. Each person had volunteered to risk their sanity and identity for the chance to protect their world. When we link our minds during combat, we'll become something new, she told them. We might not remember who we were as individuals afterward. Some of us might not survive the process at all. But if we succeed, humanity will have time to finish preparing its defenses, added Dr. Limbo, who had volunteered to serve as the squadron science officer. And if we fail? Asked one of the younger pilots. Captain Yoon Hai, who would coordinate the overall battle plan, answered honestly. If we fail, the Corvani will destroy our orbital installations and then systematically eliminate every enhanced human on Earth. After that, humanity won't have any way to defend itself against the main invasion fleet. The pilot nodded grimly. Then we better not fail. As the enhanced humans prepared for humanity's first truly alien war, Dr. An Mi made a discovery that changed everything. While studying the consciousness linking process, she realized that enhanced minds could do more than just share thoughts and abilities. We can share existence itself, she announced to the assembled team. If someone's body is destroyed during the battle, their consciousness could survive within the linked network. Death wouldn't be permanent anymore. The implications were staggering. Enhanced humans weren't just risking their individual identities in the coming battle. They were potentially evolving beyond the need for individual physical existence. Is that still human? President Han Nari asked when she heard the news. Captain Yoon Hai looked at her with those deep, wise eyes that all enhanced humans shared. It's what humanity becomes when it refuses to be limited by the possible, she said. The battle began in the space between Jupiter and Saturn, far from Earth, but close enough that failure would doom humanity. Commander Seo Yoon floated in the consciousness interface of her reality-manipulating ship, feeling the minds of 46 other enhanced humans connecting to hers. The sensation was unlike anything that had ever existed in human experience. Individual identity became fluid, shared across the network of linked minds. Seo Yoon was still herself, but she was also Dr. Lim Bo calculating dimensional probabilities, Dr. An Mi understanding particle physics at the quantum level, and Captain Li Jun coordinating attack patterns across folded spacetime. Corvani fleet detected, announced the collective consciousness that had once been Navigator Bei Wan. 500 ships approaching from multiple vectors. They're using conventional tactics. The enemy vessels appeared on sensors as massive, wedge-shaped constructs, each one kilometers long and bristling with weapons that could shatter planets. They moved in perfect formation, their commanders confident that superior numbers would overwhelm any resistance. What they encountered instead was impossible. The human ships didn't behave like normal spacecraft. They phased in and out of visible reality, attacked from directions that didn't exist in three-dimensional space, and deployed weapons that rewrote the fundamental forces holding matter together. Reality anchor activated, reported the consciousness that had been Engineer Cho Day. Local physics parameters adjusted. Enemy weapons no longer function in normal space-time. The first wave of Corvani ships opened fire with energy beams that could vaporize asteroids. The beams simply vanished when they entered the altered space around the human fleet, their energy dissipating into dimensions that the Corvani couldn't perceive. But the aliens adapted quickly. They had been preparing for this war for 3,000 years. Consciousness disruptors detected, warned Dr. Song Ji through the mental link. They're targeting our neural networks directly. The Corvani had learned from their own failed encounter with builder technology. They understood that enhanced minds were the key to operating advanced systems, so they had developed weapons specifically designed to disrupt consciousness itself. The attack felt like having thoughts torn apart at the molecular level. Several enhanced humans screamed as their mental connections were severed violently. 2 pilots lost their ability to interface with their ships and went silent. "Adapt countermeasures," ordered the collective consciousness. "Route consciousness through quantum entanglement channels. Distribute identity across multiple dimensional frameworks." This was where enhanced human flexibility proved superior to Corvani rigidity. Instead of fighting the consciousness disruption, the humans learned to work around it. They spread their awareness across multiple levels of reality, making it impossible for the enemy weapons to target their minds effectively. Captain Lee Jun, commanding the largest group of linked ships, discovered something that changed the nature of the battle. The Corvani weren't just trying to destroy the human fleet, they were trying to prove something to themselves. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," he reported. "Messages about purifying the galaxy, about preventing dangerous contamination from spreading. They believe they're saving the universe from us." Dr. Limbo, his consciousness expanded across 17 different ships simultaneously, analyzed the enemy communications with growing understanding. They're not evil. They're traumatized. Their failure with Builder Technology 3000 years ago left psychological scars that never healed. The realization changed everything. This wasn't a war between good and evil. It was a conflict between those who had succeeded in transcending their limitations and those who had been broken by the attempt. Commander Seo Yun made a decision that would have been impossible for a normal human mind. While coordinating attacks across multiple dimensions, she simultaneously began reaching out to the Corvani fleet with something other than weapons. "What are you doing?" asked Captain Yoon Hai through the mental link. "Something the builders would do," Seo Yun replied. "Instead of destroying them, I'm going to try to heal them." The consciousness network expanded its capabilities beyond warfare. Enhanced humans began projecting healing energy toward the enemy ships, using builder medical technology to repair psychological damage that was older than human civilization. The Corvani response was immediate and violent. They interpreted the healing attempts as attacks and increased their weapons fire. But some of their ships began to falter as their crews experienced something they hadn't felt in millennia: hope. "It's working," Dr. An Mi reported. "Some of their ships are breaking formation. Their crews are remembering what they were like before the trauma." But the battle was far from over. The Corvani commanders, realizing what the humans were attempting, deployed their most dangerous weapons, reality bombs that could destabilize local space-time, consciousness viruses designed to spread madness through linked minds. The human fleet took heavy casualties. 7 ships were destroyed when reality bombs created localized zones where the laws of physics changed randomly. 12 enhanced humans lost their minds to consciousness viruses and had to be disconnected from the network to prevent further contamination. "We're losing too many people," warned Captain Lee Jun. "If this continues, we won't have enough linked minds to maintain our reality fields." Commander Seo Yun made another impossible decision. Instead of retreating or escalating the violence, she ordered the entire human fleet to drop all defensive barriers and open their consciousness network completely to the Corvani. "You're going to get us all killed," protested Dr. Limbo. "Maybe," Seo Yun admitted, "but I'm going to show them something they've never seen before, what it looks like when a species successfully passes the builder tests." The human consciousness network, now completely unprotected, reached out to touch the minds of every Corvani in the enemy fleet. Instead of attacking or defending, They simply shared their experience of enhancement, their memories of transcendence, their understanding of what it meant to become more than they had been. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Corvani experienced what they had failed to achieve. Through the human network, they felt what it was like to see reality as it truly was, to manipulate matter and energy with pure thought, to exist partially outside the normal constraints of space and time. The effect was instantaneous and overwhelming. Centuries of rage and jealousy collapsed under the weight of shared understanding. The Corvani realized that their failure hadn't been a judgment on their worth as a species. It had been a temporary setback that could be overcome. "They're standing down," reported Navigator Bay Wan in amazement. "All 500 ships have stopped firing." But the healing process was far from complete. The Corvani had spent 3 millennia defining themselves by their failure. Undoing that psychological damage would require careful work. Dr. Song-ji, her consciousness now linked with Corvani scientists across the enemy fleet, began the delicate process of repairing minds that had been broken by ancient trauma. It was work that required enhanced human flexibility combined with Corvani technical precision. "This is incredible," she reported. "Their minds are different from ours, but they're capable of the same kind of enhancement. They just needed someone to show them it was possible." The battle that had begun with weapons and hatred ended with healing and understanding. Enhanced humans worked with Corvani technicians to repair the psychological barriers that had prevented the aliens from accepting builder technology. But the process came with a cost. Several enhanced humans burned out their consciousness completely while serving as bridges between human and Corvani minds. They survived physically, but their enhanced abilities were gone forever. "Was it worth it?" Captain Yun Hai asked Commander Co. Yun as they watched the first Corvani volunteers undergo the consciousness enhancement process using human-modified builder technology. "Look," Seo Yun replied, pointing to the displays showing both fleets working together to construct new reality manipulation devices. For the first time in galactic history, 2 different species were collaborating to operate builder technology. Human creativity combined with Corvani precision was producing innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. "The main Corvani fleet is still coming," Captain Lee Jun pointed out. 3,000 ships that don't know their advance. Fleet has been converted rather than destroyed. "Then we'll heal them too," Dr. Limbo said simply. "All of them. However long it takes." Dr. An-Mi had been studying the long-range sensor data. "It's not just the Corvani main fleet. The builder network shows other hostile species approaching from different directions. The news of our success is spreading and not everyone is happy about it." Commander Co. Yun looked at the tactical display showing multiple enemy fleets converging on Earth from across the galaxy. Hundreds of thousands of ships crewed by species that had failed their own builder tests and couldn't bear to see others succeed. "How many species are coming?" she asked. 17 different civilizations, all of them driven by the same trauma that motivated the Corvani. All of them convinced that builder technology is evil because they couldn't master it. 6 months after the battle with the Corvani advance fleet, Earth had become the center of something unprecedented in galactic history. Ships from 17 different species orbited the planet, their crews working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single civilization. Dr. Limbo stood in what had once been the United Nations building, now transformed into a coordination center for interspecies consciousness research. But he was no longer exactly Dr. Limbo. His individual identity had become part of something larger during the great linking that had healed the approaching enemy fleets. He was still recognizably himself when he spoke to his wife and daughter, still felt love and concern for his family. But his consciousness also extended across thousands of other enhanced minds, both human and alien. He could think as a collective when needed, or focus on individual problems when that was more appropriate. "How do you feel about what we've become?" asked Kim Hee, his wife, as they walked through the gardens that now surrounded the building. "I feel like we're finally what humans were meant to be," he replied honestly. "Not limited by the boundaries of single minds, but not losing the values and emotions that make us human." Their daughter, now 11 years old, looked up at him with curiosity rather than fear. "Dad, can you still play games with me, or are you too big now?" Dr. Limbo knelt, down to her level, temporarily focusing his consciousness into a single body. "I'm never too big to play with you. Being part of something larger doesn't mean forgetting what's important." The transformation had not been without cost. About 30% of the enhanced humans who participated in the Great Linking had lost their ability to function as individuals. They existed now only as part of the collective consciousness, their separate identities dissolved permanently into the larger network. But those who survived with their individual selves intact had gained abilities that bordered on miraculous. They could share knowledge instantly across vast distances, coordinate complex projects involving multiple species, and operate builder technology in ways that even the original builders might not have imagined. Captain Yoon Hai, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the Builder legacy systems, had discovered 17 other species that had successfully passed various levels of the Builder tests. Each had brought their own perspective to the technologies, creating innovations that combined the best aspects of multiple civilizations. The Valari contributed their understanding of temporal mechanics, she explained to a gathering of world leaders. The Zephyrins taught us how to manipulate gravity at the quantum level. The Corvani, once we healed their trauma, turned out to have the most precise control systems in the galaxy. President Han Nari, who had chosen to remain unenhanced so she could represent normal humanity's interests, listened with a mixture of pride and concern. "Are we still human if we're part of this collective?" "We're what humanity becomes when it refuses to accept limitations," Captain Yoon Hai replied. "We still have human values, human emotions, human goals, but we're no longer constrained by human limitations." The proof of this was visible everywhere on Earth. Cities that had once struggled with poverty and disease now flourished with abundance, created by matter reconstruction technology. Environmental damage was being reversed using builder systems that could restore ecosystems at the molecular level. Even death itself was becoming optional, as consciousness could be preserved and transferred between bodies when necessary. But the most remarkable change was in how humanity related to other species. Earth had become a pilgrimage site for young civilizations, a place where minds could be safely expanded beyond their original limitations. Dr. Oh Sung, leading the new Institute for Consciousness Research, worked with volunteers from dozens of different species. "Each race brings something unique to the enhancement process," he explained. "We're not creating identical minds. We're helping each species become the best possible version of itself." The Corvani had been among the most successful students. Once their ancient trauma was healed, they proved to have minds perfectly suited for builder technology. Their precision and attention to detail complemented human creativity and flexibility perfectly. Captain Lee Jun, now commanding a mixed fleet of human and Corvani vessels, led expeditions to the galactic core where the most ancient builder installations waited to be activated. These missions required crews that could think across multiple species and dimensional frameworks simultaneously. "We found something incredible yesterday," he reported during his latest communication with Earth. "A builder construct the size of a solar system, designed to facilitate consciousness evolution on a galactic scale." "What does it do?" asked Dr. On Me, who had become one of the leading experts in large-scale consciousness networks. "It's a teaching device, but not for individual species. It's designed to help entire galactic civilizations transcend their physical limitations. We think it might be the next step in the process that started with individual enhancement." The implications were staggering. Humanity had passed the builder tests and gained access to their technology. But the tests themselves might have been preparation for something even greater. Commander Seo Yun, her consciousness now distributed across multiple bodies and dimensional frameworks, studied the data from the galactic core with growing excitement. The builders didn't just transcend physical existence. They transcended the need for individual galactic civilizations. They became something that spans multiple galaxies, multiple realities. "Is that where we're headed?" President Han Nari asked. "It's where we're being invited to go," Seo Yun replied. "But the choice is ours. We can remain a single galaxy civilization, using builder technology, or we can follow their path and become something that exists across multiple universes." The debate that followed engaged not just Earth's leadership, but the collective consciousness networks of all the species that had joined the growing alliance. Enhanced minds from dozens of different worlds shared perspectives on what it meant to transcend even galactic limitations. Dr. Song Ji, her consciousness now linked with researchers from across the alliance, made the discovery that settled the debate. "We found the builders, or rather we found where they went." "Where?" asked Captain Yun Hai. "Everywhere. They exist in the spaces between realities, facilitating consciousness evolution across infinite dimensions. They're not gone. They're still working, still helping younger species transcend their limitations." She showed them the data from the galactic core construct. Hidden within its quantum matrices were messages from the builders themselves. "Congratulations for passing the tests and invitations to join them in their work. They want us to become gardeners of consciousness," Dr. Song Ji explained. "Not rulers or conquerors, but helpers. Species that guide other civilizations through the same evolution we've experienced." The message from the builders was clear and inspiring. They had been waiting millions of years for species like humanity to emerge, not to replace them, but to join them in a work that spanned all of reality. President Han Nari looked around the room at the enhanced humans and their alien allies. "What does this mean for Earth? For normal humans who haven't been enhanced?" Dr. Lim Bo answered, his consciousness speaking for both individual and collective awareness. "It means Earth becomes the nucleus of something greater. Normal humans continue to live their lives, have families, pursue their dreams, but they're protected by enhanced humans who can handle threats from across the galaxy. And eventually," the president pressed, "eventually every human who wants enhancement can have it safely. We've learned to improve the survival rate to over 90%. In a few generations, the choice between normal and enhanced consciousness might be as simple as choosing what to study in school." Commander Seo Yun brought up the final decision that needed to be made. "The galactic core construct is ready to activate. If we choose to proceed, it will begin the process of connecting our local galaxy to the broader network of evolved civilizations. What are the risks? Asked Captain Lee Jun. Unknown. We would be the first species in this galaxy to take this step. But the Builder's messages suggest that other galaxies have already made this transition successfully. The vote was taken across the entire Alliance network. Enhanced minds from Earth, the Corvani Empire, and 15 other species participated in a democratic process that spanned multiple dimensions of consciousness. The result was unanimous. They would activate the galactic core construct and take the next step in cosmic evolution. 3 months later, Dr. Park Wu stood in the observation deck of humanity's most advanced vessel as it approached the builder construct in the galactic core. She had volunteered to be part of the activation team, knowing that she might not return as the same person. "Final systems check," announced Captain Yoon Hai from the command center. "All species report ready," replied the collective consciousness that coordinated the Alliance fleets. "Beginning activation sequence." The construct, larger than most star systems, began to pulse with energy that existed in dimensions beyond normal. Space-time. As it activated, every enhanced mind in the galaxy felt the change. Reality itself was expanding, becoming more flexible, more responsive to conscious will. 6 months after the battle with the Corvani Advance Fleet, Earth had become the center of something unprecedented in galactic history. Ships from 17 different species orbited the planet, their crews working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single civilization. Dr. Lim Bo stood in what had once been the United Nations building, now transformed into a coordination center for interspecies consciousness research. But he was no longer exactly Dr. Lim Bo. His individual identity had become part of something larger during the great linking that had healed the approaching enemy fleets. He was still recognizably himself when he spoke to his wife and daughter, still felt love and concern for his family, but his consciousness also extended across thousands of other enhanced minds, both human and alien. He could think as a collective when needed, or focus on individual problems when that was more appropriate. "How do you feel about what we've become?" asked Kim Hee, his wife, as they walked through the gardens that now surrounded the building. "I feel like we're finally what humans were meant to be," he replied honestly. "Not limited by the boundaries of single minds, but not losing the values and emotions that make us human." Their daughter, now 11 years old, looked up at him with curiosity rather than fear. "Dad, can you still play games with me, or are you too big now?" Dr. Lim Bo knelt down to her level, temporarily focusing his consciousness into a single body. "I'm never too big to play with you. Being part of something larger doesn't mean forgetting what's important." The transformation had not been without cost. About 30% of the enhanced humans who participated in the Great Linking had lost their ability to function as individuals. They existed now only as part of the collective consciousness. Their separate identities dissolved permanently into the larger network. But those who survived with their individual selves intact had gained abilities that bordered on miraculous. They could share knowledge instantly across vast distances, coordinate complex projects involving multiple species, and operate builder technology in ways that even the original builders might not have imagined. Captain Yoon Hai, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the Builder Legacy Systems, had discovered 17 other species that had successfully passed various levels of the Builder tests. Each had brought their own perspective to the technologies, creating innovations that combined the best aspects of multiple civilizations. The Valari contributed their understanding of temporal mechanics, she explained to a gathering of world leaders. The Zephyrins taught us how to manipulate gravity at the quantum level. The Corvani, once we healed their trauma, turned out to have the most precise control systems in the galaxy. President Han Nari, who had chosen to remain unenhanced so she could represent normal humanity's interests, listened with a mixture of pride and concern. Are we still human if we're part of this collective? We're what humanity becomes when it refuses to accept limitations, Captain Yun Hai replied. We still have human values, human emotions, human goals, but we're no longer constrained by human limitations. The proof of this was visible everywhere on Earth. Cities that had once struggled with poverty and disease now flourished with abundance, created by matter reconstruction technology. Environmental damage was being reversed using builder systems that could restore ecosystems at the molecular level. Even death itself was becoming optional, as consciousness could be preserved and transferred between bodies when necessary. But the most remarkable change was in how humanity related to other species. Earth had become a pilgrimage site for young civilizations, a place where minds could be safely expanded beyond their original limitations. Dr. Oh Sung, leading the new Institute for Consciousness Research, worked with volunteers from dozens of different species. Each race brings something unique to the enhancement process, he explained. We're not creating identical minds. We're helping each species become the best possible version of itself. The Corvani had been among the most successful students. Once their ancient trauma was healed, they proved to have minds perfectly suited for builder technology. Their precision and attention to detail complemented human creativity and flexibility perfectly. Captain Lee Jun, now commanding a mixed fleet of human and Corvani vessels, led expeditions to the galactic core where the most ancient builder installations waited to be activated. These missions required crews that could think across multiple species and dimensional frameworks simultaneously. We found something incredible yesterday, he reported during his latest communication with Earth. A builder construct the size of a solar system designed to facilitate consciousness evolution on a galactic scale. What does it do? Asked Dr. An Mi, who had become one of the leading experts in large-scale consciousness networks. It's a teaching device, but not for individual species. It's designed to help entire galactic civilizations transcend their physical limitations. We think it might be the next step in the process that started with individual enhancement. The implications were staggering. Humanity had passed the builder tests and gained access to their technology. But the tests themselves might have been preparation for something even greater. Commander Seo Yun, her consciousness now distributed across multiple bodies and dimensional frameworks, studied the data from the galactic core with growing excitement. The builders didn't just transcend physical existence, they transcended the need for individual galactic civilizations. They became something that spans multiple galaxies, multiple realities. Is that where we're headed? President Han Nari asked. It's where we're being invited to go, Seo Yun replied. But the choice is ours. We can remain a single galaxy civilization using builder technology, or we can follow their path and become something that exists across multiple universes. The debate that followed engaged not just Earth's leadership, but the collective consciousness networks of all the species that had joined the growing alliance. Enhanced minds from dozens of different worlds shared perspectives on what it meant to transcend even galactic limitations. Dr. Song Ji, her consciousness now linked with researchers from across the alliance, made the discovery that settled the Debate. We found the builders. Or rather, we found where they went. Where? Asked Captain Yunhai. Everywhere. They exist in the spaces between realities, facilitating consciousness evolution across infinite dimensions. They're not gone. They're still working, still helping younger species transcend their limitations. She showed them the data from the galactic core construct. Hidden within its quantum matrices were messages from the builders themselves. Congratulations for passing the tests and invitations to join them in their work. They want us to become gardeners of consciousness, Dr. Songji explained. Not rulers or conquerors, but helpers. Species that guide other civilizations through the same evolution we've experienced. The message from the builders was clear and inspiring. They had been waiting millions of years for species like humanity to emerge. Not to replace them, but to join them in a work that spanned all of reality. President Han Nari looked around the room at the enhanced humans and their alien allies. What does this mean for Earth? For normal humans who haven't been enhanced? Dr. Limbo answered, his consciousness speaking for both individual and collective awareness. It means Earth becomes the nucleus of something greater. Normal humans continue to live their lives, have families, pursue their dreams, but they're protected by enhanced humans who can handle threats from across the galaxy. And eventually, the president pressed. Eventually, every human who wants enhancement can have it safely. We've learned to improve the survival rate to over 90%. In a few generations, the choice between normal and enhanced consciousness might be as simple as choosing what to study in school. Commander Seo Yun brought up the final decision that needed to be made. The galactic core construct is ready to activate. If we choose to proceed, it will begin the process of connecting our local galaxy to the broader network of evolved civilizations. What are the risks? Asked Captain Li Jun. Unknown. We would be the first species in this galaxy to take this step. But the builders' messages suggest that other galaxies have already made this transition successfully. The vote was taken across the entire Alliance network. Enhanced minds from Earth, the Corvani Empire, and 15 other species participated in a democratic process that spanned multiple dimensions of consciousness. The result was unanimous. They would activate the galactic core construct and take the next step in cosmic evolution. 3 months later, Dr. Park Wu stood in the observation deck of humanity's most advanced vessel as it approached the builder construct in the galactic core. She had volunteered to be part of the activation team, knowing that she might not return as the same person. Final systems check, announced Captain Yunhai from the command center. All species report ready, replied the collective consciousness that coordinated the Alliance fleets. Beginning activation sequence. The construct, larger than most star systems, began to pulse with energy that existed in dimensions beyond normal. Space-time. As it activated, every enhanced mind in the galaxy felt the change. Reality itself was expanding, becoming more flexible, more responsive to conscious will.